Hello everyone, and welcome to this video which is in our Engine Snack series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler, and we're taking a look at a very interesting endgame episode between Stockfish and Komodo Dragon, TCEC Season 22 SuperFinal Game 10. So Komodo had won the white side of this opening and was desperately hoping to draw the black side rather, to get a game pair win. The opening was pretty ropey, so but Komodo had done pretty well, really. Komodo has lost a pawn, so White's got this extra kingside pawn on e3. But, well, you know, we've seen often enough in engine games the pawn is not always a decisive advantage. Black's pieces are very active. The rook's on the central files. When the bishop on e5 moves, the knight on e4 will be attacked. And we've got this sneaky knight on the side that might one day come into the c3 square, for example, if the knight on e4 moves away and inconvenience the rook on d1. We've got a major divergence point here because Komodo chose to move bishop g7 and ended up losing a very convincing ending in the end to Stockfish. But during the game, Stockfish was recommending this move, and it seemed to think that Black was still holding on. So just interesting to try and understand, you know, what's the difference between bishop g7 and bishop d4, and was this a missed opportunity from Komodo? Well, I mean, I think just moving on to answer that second question, you know, in my engine matches, it was only really Stockfish that was able to hold this as Black, even after the move bishop d4. Komodo and Leela, even at long time control, 60-minute plus 10 seconds, they were not able to hold this this ending. So I think, you know, bishop d4 was probably a good move. The only chance that Black had, but to say that that it was you know, a missed game win opportunity for Komodo is going quite far. I think there was still huge amounts of work to be done to save this endgame. What's the difference though? Well, let's have a look what happened in the main game. So after bishop g7, knight c5 was played, rook c8, rook c1, and we got this exchange of rooks. And then Black activates its rook. Very typically, rook e5, rook e4, hitting the pawn on g4, a little tempo there. King f3, rook a4, attacking the pawn on a2. And just for a moment you think that Komodo has managed to win the pawn on a2 by force. But rook d1 is very strong, because rook a2, I've just got rook d8 check, bishop f8, and then I guess knight c5 is the move, threatening knight d7, and king g7, there's h6 check. So Komodo played bishop f6 and now rook d2, and yeah, I mean, the point about this position was that, well, the white rook was, in a way, tied down to the pawn on a2, but the white knight was completely free, and was free to harass the black bishop, harass the black rook, and also to attack black pawns like f7. And, well, if I just fast forward another 5 or 6 moves, you can see how this works. The knight's come to e5, and after bishop b6, h6 was played, knight f7, and this is a very nice transformation of advantages, really. Give up this h-pawn for the f-pawn, and now all of a sudden we've got a passed e-pawn as well. And, well, I mean, it's a very difficult conversion, but, you know, Stockfish obviously made it look very simple. So I suppose, you know, what we're taking away from that is that Black managed to get the white rook passive, but the knight was free, and this was enough for White to generate a lot of play. If we have a look at the position after bishop d4 and yeah, typical continuations, then king f3, rook takes e4, takes knight c3 check. So we're forcing this this endgame again. Rook takes d1, another rook and bishop versus rook and knight ending, but with an extra pawn for White. Bishop f6, we got a little shuffle there. This was Stockfish against Stockfish, so these little repetitions are quite common. And then takes. And what is the difference between this position and the one we saw before? The difference is in the position of the white knight. Actually, that knight has real difficulties getting active. Obviously, it's pinned to the rook on d1, and if you go knight b2, I'll just go rook c8, stop the knight coming to c4, and I'm threatening rook c2, hitting b2, f2, and also the a2 pawn behind it. So, yeah, that white knight is not going to get active in the short term, which, well, basically gives Black a lot of time and a lot of defensive space. Now in these Stockfish games, we got king g4, rook d5, f4, rook a5, rook d2, and then rook a3. And you see how Stockfish is managing to keep that rook super active and keep this knight passive. It's shielding the e3 pawn so it can't move away. And after e4 we go rook a4, and now this rook's doing another great job, hitting 2 pawns at the same time. And now after rook e2, very important move now actually, looks like, because in this position I also had a game Stockfish against Komodo Dragon, long time control, and Dragon played king g7, and then after knight e5, bishop d8, knight c6, bishop b6, knight e7. This knight was super active, coming around to d5, and that caused black all sorts of problems. In this position, Stockfish against Stockfish, Stockfish played bishop d6, just stopping this knight from getting active on e5. Again, just trying to dominate this black knight. And after e5 played, rook d4, hitting the knight on d3, forcing it to retreat, bishop c7. King f3, bishop b6, knight e4, king f8. I mean, this is still really unpleasant for black, but the rook's active, the f4 pawn is weak, the king's tied to it. The black king is going to come into e6. If the rooks get exchanged, then black's going to get counterplay against these pawns. So, it's conceivable that it's holdable. And, in 124 moves, Stockfish held it against Stockfish. So I think basically the conclusion is that this very critical moment in the match, was this a game pair winning opportunity missed by Komodo? Well, bishop d4 would have been given good chances to draw with absolutely stellar defense, 100% precise defense afterwards. Probably something that maybe only Stockfish could really do. Bishop g7 just gave white the opportunity to get into a position where its rook was a little passive, tied down to the defense of the pawn, but its knight was free, and well, with that knight, Stockfish managed to do some quite amazing things. Great ending.